Shattering Dreams, a reflection. I begin with a brief poem translated from the Italian words of St. Francis of Assisi. It was easy to love God in all that was beautiful. The lessons of deeper knowledge, though, instructed me to embrace God in all things. This is Wednesday, November 16th, 8 days after Election Day 2016, a week ago. I voted to elect the first woman president of the United States of America. I dedicated my vote to my grandmother, who was born in 1898 and came of age just as women got to vote for the very first time. On Election Day, I spoke with my daughters, my son, and my granddaughters, and we shared our excitement and expectation that a woman would soon sit behind the desk in the Oval Office. I woke, like so many others, the next morning in disbelief that our dream had been shattered. I walked on shards of the glass ceiling for days. My heart heavy, my hope for our country's future torn like the renting of a mourning garment. I was in pain, and I tried to come awake and understand what had happened, what will happen now. The sound of shattering dreams haunted me through the week. In my despair, I have felt a deepening kinship with the many marginalized groups in our country that have long lived with this kind of despair. The despair of not having a voice, the despair of continuing wounding caused by narratives of hate, policies of cruelty, and acts of violence, the despair of lost hope and disempowerment. For a vast class of Americans, black, white, and brown, sexism, racism, classism, homophobia, immigrant injustice, xenophobia, hatred toward Muslims, economic inequality, police violence, opiate addiction, none of this is new. For many, they are painfully familiar. I am aware that many people of privilege, many of whom might fall into the category of the elite, we, are experiencing a level of despair and marginalization that we have never felt before. A new and unfamiliar despair is cutting to the core, and many of us are cycling through the stages of grief. I have heard the election and its aftermath described in some very violent images. People likened it to that other terrible Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. Some felt it as an earthquake that has ripped our country apart. Many felt a grief similar to the death of someone close to them. Some felt punched in the gut. Many continue to be deeply afraid. We progressive religionists who have committed ourselves to dreams of inclusiveness and equality, we who have dreamed of welcoming all people, we who have fought for marriage equality and provide a Rainbow Youth Alliance, we who are committed to the work for immigration reform, economic justice, racial justice, saving our planet, and the woman's right to choose. Now, we face a new challenge. Our dreams have been torn asunder. Our two-party political system, our founders' carefully crafted checks and balances appear to have collapsed. Our country has newly drawn lines of division. The coastal corridors east and west separated from the vast southern, western, and middle states, neighbor against neighbor, family member against family member. And the pain is unbearable because we divide not against an outside threat or power, we divide against ourselves. I hear the echo of the words of Abraham Lincoln standing at another moment of moral crisis. A house divided against itself cannot stand. We are so stunned by the impact of our current moral crisis that we can't quite believe what has happened. My shock and outrage has focused throughout the campaign on the narcissistic, immoral character of Donald Trump. How could so many vote for a man who has displayed again and again such a consistent lack of a moral center? I know, of course, there has never been a presidential candidate without flaws. There is none among us without human imperfections. But core morality demands that we try to overcome our flaws, that we try to become better, more kind, more fair and caring human beings. Donald Trump made no effort to control his baser instincts or correct his moral flaws. As president-elect, I see no hint of change toward reconciliation, compromise, inclusion, respect, or kindness. We are in a scary time. What will happen to America now? And we ask ourselves, what are we to do? How do we resist such hate? How do we protect those who are most vulnerable to the violent impulses that have been stirred? How do we work to heal the vast divide? It has been heartbreaking to watch all of this, to be part of all of this tearing apart. Please know that our beloved community here is here to help heal our wounds. The Unitarian Universalist congregation offers our sanctuary to all who suffer, and we are committed to moving forward together to resist and to protect. We will not long be stalled in shock and fear. We will work within coalitions. We will forge new progressive alliances. We will support the peaceful protesters and the high school youth who march because they know that all of this affects them. We will lead and we will follow the lead of others who need us, and we will soon find our way back to hope. I know we will. We will live our principles, and we will be among those who keep hope alive. This is what we Unitarian Universalists and all of our liberal brothers and sisters have always done. We have kept hope alive, hope in a better country, hope in love, hope in justice. Many of us, though, have friends and family who voted for Trump. We do. And we wonder, how will we sit next to them peacefully at the Thanksgiving dinner table next week? I know one of my sisters voted that way. Though she didn't admire him, she said, she was persuaded that the other candidate was worse. She succumbed to the media's continuing false equivalencies. I found myself avoiding talking to her for a few days, but I knew that if I waited much longer to reach out, it would become more difficult to connect compassionately. And so we talked a bit about the election and acknowledged our differing perspectives. And we tried to listen to one another, and we didn't try to change each other's views. But it was hard, and it will continue to be hard, and many people in many marginalized groups are afraid. No one knows what may happen next. People of color, gay, lesbian, transgendered people are scared for their safety and their children's safety. Muslims are scared of authorities and of their neighbors. Many Latinos who are undocumented are afraid. Many people in America have guns, and fear and violence have been stirred and extolled by Trump. And we need to do all we can to keep our friends and neighbors and family members safe, to keep everyone safe. We who are white and privileged need to step up more than ever before. I have no idea what that might mean, except staying awake, listening well, and keeping the faith in our moral values and principles. It means speaking up against hate and trying to understand those who think and believe differently than we do. Because I have been so shaken by the lack of moral decency in this president-elect, I intend to think and speak more and more about morality. I will be using an amazing book by Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, Jonathan Haidt, The Righteous Mind, Why Good People are divided by politics and religion. This work suggests that no matter what values we hold dear, we are all prone to the human failing of self-righteousness. We all think we're right. That is something worth thinking about, and I recommend his writings and his TED Talk. Religion and politics are alike in that their foundation rests in relationship. And so I would lift up the need for continued learning about right relationship. How do we treat one another? How do we honor our differences? How do we stand in a place of open-heartedness, even when forces of evil and violence are trying to tear us apart, divide us from others, break our country into factions? This is a moment to grow in spirit. This is a moment to be your best self. There is much work ahead, so take care of yourself and one another as you grieve. Try to understand those who think differently from you, and know that your congregation, your faith, is here for you. You are not alone. This sanctuary is here for all in need. Show up here. Soon we will know what tasks we are called to do. May grace and peace abide in your hearts, and may hope and love rise up. So may it be. Amen. Blessed be.